Let's learn how to thread and wind the bobbin properly on the Janome 3160, 4120, and 5300 sewing machine. Hey guys, it's David from GD's Fabric Shop, home of Janome Junkies and Junkies. And in today's video, we're just gonna go over how to wind and thread your Janome 3160 along with all the models listed on this screen. In specific, of course, we have the 3160 in front of us, but all the models listed on the screen will also apply to the threading of this machine. Okay, so now that we're in front of the machine, let's go ahead and start with bobbin winding. And the first thing you're gonna wanna do is, of course, get your bobbin out of your machine. You wanna make sure this is a Class 15A Janome authentic bobbin. It is important that you're buying Janome authentic bobbins because if you buy anything on Amazon, typically they're non-authentic and the bobbin quality is typically a lot different than actual Janome quality, and you can experience issues with it. Remember, any nicks or scratches on those bobbins can cause issues, so just make sure you inspect it and make sure it's nice and clean all the way around the edges. So the first thing you want to do with bobbin winding is go ahead and put your spool on your spool stand, and you're just going to go ahead and put that there, and you want to use the appropriate spool cap for the spool that you're using. This is very important. If you have a small spool like this, you want to use a small spool cap. Sometimes you can get away with no spool cap. Personally, with this glide thread that we're using today, I like to run no spool cap because if you see with this small spool cap here, it creates a kind of a gap in between the spool and the spool cap, and thread can get caught in between. So I like to run just no spool cap, or if I do run one, I like to run it like that. So I'm just going to actually rock no spool cap just because it's personal preference on that. And the first thing you're going to do is wrap it around this main tension disc up here. So you're just going to go around it from back to front, one rotation like that. And I always like to go around one more rotation because if you just go around once, it's pretty much just halfway around the tension disc. So if you go around one more time, that's one full rotation around. And this just helps give it a little bit better tension, but also it allows the thread to not want to fall out of that tension disc. So as you can see, when I pull it, it just stays in that disc. So now that we've got it through that tension disc, we can go ahead and throw the thread through the small little hole on your Class 15A plastic bobbin. So you go from bottom to top, just like that, pokes out the top, and then you're gonna go ahead and throw that bobbin onto your bobbin winding wheel, and you can go ahead and just push it over, just like that, and then you can just press start on your machine. And once it winds for about 5 to 10 seconds, I can go ahead and stop it, and grab a pair of scissors and cut right there to the edge, and then go ahead and press start again on the machine. Now when it's winding, I always like to visually make sure that the thread is coming off nice and easy off my spool. If you're running a spool cap, making sure that the spool cap is not obstructing the flow of the thread coming off the spool, and also making sure that it stays in this tension disc. If it comes out of this tension disc, you'll get a squishy bobbin and it will not be correctly wound, and you'll experience lots of tension issues down the road. So as it's winding, I'm making sure it's going on the bobbin, not below it or above it, making sure it's staying in the tension disc and making sure my thread is coming off my spool nice and easy. So right now it is fully wound because the bobbin stopped spinning. We can turn the motor off. We can push this over. We can take this off. Use my scissors to cut. And let me show you what your bobbin should look like. So as you can see here, your bobbin is nice and tight. When you squish down on the sides, it doesn't squish in. It's nice and tight, and it's also evenly wound. And then also the thread stops just a little bit before the edge. You don't want it to be right up on the edge. You want it to be just a little bit off, maybe a millimeter off. So as you can see, just like that is what you want it to be like. And again, if you're not getting a bobbin that winds this full, you can just push this little circular plastic. It's like a, I don't know what you would call it. It's not a perfect circle. One side's bigger than the other side. And obviously the bigger the side is, that's where you would push it over so that way it winds less. And if you want more, you would want the side where there's less material touching the bobbin. So this would be a more wound bobbin, and this would be a less wound bobbin. So you just want to make sure it gives you a bobbin that's pretty much full but not totally full. So now that we have our bobbin full, it's time to go ahead and throw it into our bobbin case. And on computerized machines, you want the bobbin thread to fall down, making a P. instead of a 9. So on a mechanical or an industrial machine, it usually falls down the right, making a 9. But on a computerized machine, you want it to be a P. So thread falls off counterclockwise off the bobbin. Drop it in like that. Now the thread, literally all you have to do is just pull it directly towards you and your seat, and then pull it to the left, just like that. Once that's done, you now have the bobbin in the right spot, and we can go ahead and thread the machine. Same concept as winding the bobbin. Put your spool on that spool stand, and if you want to rock a spool cap, you can. Make sure your spool's on the right direction. I know a lot of cones, they look the same on both sides, making sure that the side that is facing on the left, the outside where the thread's coming off, doesn't have any nicks or scratches where the thread can get hooked up on. That can cause tension issues and threading issues. So we're just going to come right off of this. We're going to go around number 1, and you're just going to follow that arrow. Now, when I thread a machine, I always like to make sure my foot is up so my tension discs are separated. If you have your foot down, that's fine, but you have to know how to properly thread the machine with your foot down. And I like to use this concept whether my foot's down or up. I like to hold this side of the thread and this side so I can make sure I'm kind of like using a flossing motion and make sure it's seated all the way back into these thread guides when I'm threading. So it's going to go around number 1. We're going to follow number 2, go all the way down to 3. And then once we get to 4, you want to make sure you rotate your hand wheel until this take-up lever is all the way up. So your needle should be in the up position. You're going to go around 4 like that, and then down to 5, which is this thread guide down here by the needle bar. Once you get to 5, you're going to go around the thread guide on the needle bar, which is number 6, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my foot down just like that. And once the foot's down, I can use my needle threader. When you use the needle threader, you're just going to push this lever down, and it should just stay in place. And then your thread is going to go from left to right around this one thread guide here, just like that. And then you throw your thread into behind this little plastic slit here. And you just hold your thread right here nice and lightly, and you push this back up, and that'll thread your needle. And I always like to highlight when you're using the needle threader, make sure you're using a size 80-12 or larger, and make sure you're using just normal home sewing threads. If you're using super thick decorative threads or industrial threads, that will not work with the needle threader. Okay, so let's just go through this with no cuts, no B-roll, just raw footage threading the machine. So here, of course, we're gonna hold both sides, go through 1, make sure it's all the way in, follow 2 down, go around 3, you following this step, go back up, right to left around this take-up lever, just like that, it should be in that little slot. Back down 5, and then it should go around this little tiny thread guide bar right there. And then we're going to go to the needle bar thread guide, which is right here, this little hook. And this one you just have to go like that. Once you have that there, you can go ahead and put your foot down and push down your needle threader. Remember, you want to use an 80-12 needle or larger. You're going to go around this little plastic guide right there into this little plastic guide here, and the thread, you can see a little wire hook that goes through the eye of the needle, and that's what actually hooks onto the thread. So you're going to hold this thread here, and you're going to let go of it as it pulls it through the needle, just like that. And then you can go ahead and grab that little loop and pull on that, and that will thread your needle. Okay, so now that we have our top thread threaded and our bobbin threaded, we're going to go ahead and pull up our bobbin thread. So what you're going to do is just lift up your foot, tuck this thread in the foot like that, and rotate your hand wheel while holding this thread back here with your hand, and you're going to rotate the hand wheel towards you. And as you can see, that thread's going to come around and grab the bobbin thread. And then once your take-up lever is in the up position, all the way up, that means your stitch is complete, and you can see your bobbin thread is pulled up in the zigzag plate. And then you can just grab a pair of tweezers or your scissors, capture that little loop, pull that thread, just like that. And now we can go ahead and put our little cover back on our stitch plate, and we're ready to start sewing. We have our bobbin thread pulled up. We can cut our thread on the side of the machine so it's nice and even length, and just tuck it back there. And now we're ready to start putting some material in this machine. We're just going to go ahead and sew out on a little strip here. Show you everything is threaded right. Just going to put it underneath the foot and press start. you're done, you can lift up your foot and you can actually just pull the whole entire material up to the side like this and use that side cutter to cut it. Or you can use the automatic cutter that is built into the machine. And as you can see, our stitches look nice and crisp. Now, if you guys don't have this success after threading your machine, my advice is to go over your threading and make sure it's coming off your spool nice and evenly, and also make sure your bobbin is inserted right and it's not squishy. Well, just like that, I hope this video was helpful to you and you now know how to wind and thread your machine, along with some helpful tips such as the spool caps that we talked about and making sure you have an 80/12 and above size needle when using the needle threader. If you guys have any questions on threading and winding this machine, make sure to comment them down below and we'll be happy to respond to them. If you guys are looking for a new Janome machine or any accessories for your current Janome machine, be sure to head over to janomejunkies.com where we have all of our machines along with all of the accessories and a lot more such as the threads and notions. If you guys are wanting to talk to a professional and learn more about Janome machines and accessories, be sure to look into our contact information listed in the description of this video. We will also pop it up on the screen for you right here. We love to make sure to take care of our customers and have exceptional customer service for our out-of-state or even our local customers. So if you're looking for that new machine or accessories, be sure to just reach out to us and we'll be happy to walk you through any questions you might have. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you comment down below if you have any questions, hit that like button, and subscribe because we post every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye-bye.